Tēnā koutou katoa, bonjour, welcome to the Breakdown on the Road. It is finally time, knockout rugby time. Fiji have made it to the quarterfinals by the skin of their teeth. The top four are set for a collision course. Two will be on the plane home next week and the other two will progress through to the semi-finals. It is an exciting time. Ireland taking on New Zealand, the game we've been waiting for basically 3 years since the draw was done. Mills, will there be nerves in camp this week? Will there be excitement? Will these experienced All Blacks guys just want to rip in and say we owe them one?
Oh, well, we're finally here, aren't we, Kirsty? I mean, I'm nervous, so...
Don't say that.
I don't know. Well,
you make us nervous.
I'm just a spectator, but I'll be thinking that inside the camp they'll be fairly excited. I think they've been waiting for this for a long time, you know, having sort of watched the Ireland, Irish sort of Scotland game. I can't wait.
I'm not nervous because I'm not playing. If I was playing, it'd be a different story. The fact that I don't have... what I do is not going to impact this performance whatsoever, but... Look, we sort of knew we were going to end up here.
Yeah.
There was a sense, right, coming through the tournament. The moment we lost to France, in all likelihood, we were going to get here. There's been some big games, but JK, it's now 3 weekends. That's all it is. You've always talked about 4 big games. 4 is 1 big weekend, but you talked about winning a World Cup as going to that pinnacle, going to Everest 3 times, right? Our first one is going to come this Saturday.
Yeah, look, I don't know if New Zealanders know how to be underdogs. Right? I don't know how to feel. So I don't know if I'm excited, I don't know if I'm nervous. But what I do know is that New Zealand is going to be hard to beat, but so is Ireland. So when I analyse the game and when I think about it, I know there's Everest coming, but for me, I think if you win the quarterfinal, you're in the final, right? But how do you beat Ireland? I think that it's, for once in our lives, you go, when you're an All Black and you're preparing for the game, you think, if we play well, we're going to win. But if we play well this week, I still think it's going to go down to the wire because the side that we're playing are incredible. You think about the kicking game, right? Do we kick the ball? Because if you kick the ball to them, they can hang on to it. So there's lots to think about.
JK, you wanted this. You wanted the All Blacks to take on Ireland this week. Revenge. That is what is top of mind. Let's take a look at the quarterfinal draw and how it plays out. And then there were 8. Wales take on Argentina, the All Blacks against Ireland, England against Fiji, and France against South Africa. So it is North versus South in every single quarterfinal. There are 2 from Marseille, 2 from Paris. It'll be Saturday and Sunday afternoon and evening here in Paris, and Monday for you at home in New Zealand. Well, do you remember the final breakdown before we came on the road? These two made bold predictions. They did their Rugby World Cup brackets, who would make it out of pool play, who would be first, who would be second, and who would cross over in the quarters, semis, and eventually be our finalists. Let's take a look down memory lane, shall we?
How's it going to play out? Quarterfinal 1. I'm going to see Fiji coming out on top of their pool. England are going to survive their pool. They're going to find a way to make a quarterfinal. Who have I got winning that? I've got England at full strength. Whoa. At full strength, when they welcome back Owen Farrell, Billy Vunipola, they're going to be strong enough. Quarterfinal 2, Ireland, I think, are going to top their pool. South African fans don't like me now. I may never travel back to South Africa, but they're going to take on New Zealand because I think it's going to be tough for the All Blacks to beat France in round 1, so they're going to be runner-up. Who's going to win that? The All Blacks. They're motivated in quarterfinals against some teams that have beaten them in the past. Ireland are that side. They can't wait to do it. Quarterfinal 3, Argentina, who I think are in great form. They'll love their draw. They're going to come out on top and they're going to take on Australia. Now, I see Argentina making the semi-final of a Rugby World Cup again. And then there's a massive one. The host, France, taking on South Africa. You didn't like me from what I said earlier. Oh. You're not going to like me now because I've got the hosts going through to a semi-final against Argentina. England take on New Zealand. The All Blacks, a replay of the semi-final from Japan in 2019. But the All Blacks come out on top this time and they're going to take on the hosts in France. Round 1, it was the All Blacks France. The end of the competition in the final, I see the All Blacks coming out on top. Things will have to go their way, but I've got very little confidence. Argentina, England, the 4th and 3rd place game, I don't care.
My first one here, quarterfinal number 1, Australia and England, okay, quarterfinal number 1. And then, who go through from that? Wow, let's have a look because it is going to be Australia. Oh. Okay, quarterfinal 2, well, France, they second because we've beaten them in the first round. They play Ireland, who topped their pool at number 1. And out of that, nope, the world number 1 come through.
You've got the host gone.
Gone, mate. Gone.
God.
Gone.
Whoa. Wow.
Over to the other side, Argentina and Fiji for me as well. Argentina, well, they take on Fiji and be a pretty explosive effort from Fiji, but the Argies go through for me. And down the bottom, the South Africans, and this is it. We beat them in Mount Smart. They beat us over in Twickenham. Sorry, South Africans. We beat them the third time round, so we go through. All right? Argentina, New Zealand semi-final, Australia and Ireland. Let's go back to this one here. So who makes the final? Out of Australia and Ireland, world number ones go through. They make the final. Ireland, and on the other side, of course, the mighty All Blacks. So they're up there in the final. And who wins the final?
Here we go.
Well, it's the country ending with land. It is New Zealand.
Well, someone got their predictions very right and someone got them very wrong, and it pains me to see Jeff so chummy, Mills. But you picked a New Zealand-Ireland final, so you're a few weeks too early.
I am, and that's not going to happen. And look at old mate here, so humble, with his predictions and that. But great, I mean, look at where we've ended up. The biggest surprise for me, I suppose, is Australia. I mean, for everyone else as well, being knocked out, Jeff. But well done, mate.
Well, now, hold on, but we're only got to this point, right? We're only got to the quarterfinals, and if you look at the path that I've gone through, and clearly I want the All Blacks to win, and they're up against it. Look, ultimately going into the tournament, I thought there was some obvious selections. We knew there was a couple of pools that were going to be competitive. You saw exactly how close Fiji were to not making it through. All of a sudden, Australia and Eddie Jones and their crew were thinking it's time to get the boots back on, mouth guards on, and then it took until the final minute for them to work out that actually no, we're on a plane going home. We can have a beer. But I think it sets up beautifully. When we look at the way teams have built through this tournament, we had a little wee side bet going on Argentina and Japan. I thought I'd bring that up now. I'm looking forward to dinner. It's in Paris.
I tell you what, he reckons it was a dinner.
We've got it on record exactly what it was.
It was a dinner.
It was a dinner.
And I was coming.
And we're all involved.
There.
Anyone who wants to come and see us in Paris. It's all on JK. But I look at it, JK, and look, ultimately, what it is now, it's a big moment for all of these teams. You've got one chance to further your tournament. The pressure's on.
Well, for me, the World Cup would have been a failure from World Rugby's point of view if it had been predictable, and it wasn't that predictable. I'm very pleased Portugal beat Fiji, and Fiji still went through. Portugal were a very good side, coached by Patrick Lacazette, who's a very, very, very good coach. He's coached at the highest levels. So for me, Fiji getting through, but Portugal winning, Australia going out, although we want to look after our cousins, they need to go and look at their game. Besides that, it's been a bit predictable, And the different sides of the draw, I think, has had a massive influence.
It's make or break for these teams, isn't it, this weekend? When you look at the Ireland matchup against the All Blacks, this is a rivalry that really started taking off in 2016, and didn't it? And it continued with that three-match series in New Zealand last year. There is a lot of bad blood, a lot of spice in this one, Jeff, but a very different side that New Zealand is putting out. I think 6 Test careers were basically ended in New Zealand last year. There are 2 new coaches involved in this one, including Joe Schmidt, who was there with Ireland 4 years ago in the quarterfinals.
Well, and that's 2 new selectors as well, and Jason Ryan. And so what they wanted out of their players was clearly different than what the other selection group did before that. I think it's taken us 3 years to get here. The number of teams have gone through, the number of players. We went on tour with about 50 players through COVID. Remembering there was 2 years sort of in the wilderness and playing
irrelevant, mate.
It's irrelevant because it's taken them that long.
It's totally irrelevant.
No, it isn't. No, to find out who the All Blacks should be for this game.
Yeah.
And we've got guys playing in different positions. We've got Bowden Barrett, who started at 10 in the last Test match. He's now gone to fullback. Geordie Barrett was the fullback last year in the last Test match against Ireland. He's now at second 5.
Yeah.
Like, there is no comparisons. Actually, that's the one thing I think Ireland can't take into this game.
Irrelevant.
No, it's not.
It is.
It's not, because these guys now know each other.
But it's a one-off game. So all those things are irrelevant. It is what it is this weekend. Forget the past, forget history.
I don't know, no.
Forget
No,
2016.
Hold on.
Ireland have never been out of a
80 minutes.
quarterfinal. Ireland have never been out of a quarterfinal. You can't, the pressure's on them.
Okay, let's talk psychologically, right? 87 through to 211. We were the best team going into those games. We carried the weight of the nation on us, so we've learnt that.
So who's feeling that now?
Ireland.
Absolutely.
Ireland. So I think it's all irrelevant. I agree with you. Our side is very different. I'm confident that we've got the right side. But Ireland's problem is psychological.
Yeah.
Right? Their problem this week is dealing with actually a really good and different All Black side and the pressure of a nation. Like, did you see the game the other day? There's only green shirts. And there's only going to be green shirts compared to All Black shirts
I
this
think
week.
your point is it is relevant because it's taken us 3 years to get to a settled side. And we've gone through a lot of hurt. We've never done that in the past. We've come into a Rugby World Cup or even 3 years before that, having lost so many games, trying to find sort of our selection guys, the guys up front, and finding the group and also Lomax, but a really settled team. So we are on a different sort of a pathway to this. You're right about that sort of mental side. Can Ireland handle that expectation that they are number one? We've done it for years and years, and that's probably been one of our burdens, that we've gone with too much expectation. But from what I've seen on this Irish side, they have started to cover that box as well. That game against Scotland, then they came out and they monstered them right from the get-go. And so I'm seeing it's something totally different from this Irish team.
It's interesting you mentioned the fans because, of course, it's been a sea of green because ultimately they've been pool games. But how many people would have tried to buy tickets for a quarter-final? So I think the balance will be different. There'll be a huge number of All Black fans. I think it will be,
How many? In a 90,000 seat
I don't
stadium.
really care. I don't really care. Can we talk about the balance? I don't care about it. I don't care. I do want to talk about selection because I agree with what you've said, right? So I agree. We are the best side that we can be, and we've been through adversity. But it's a one-off game.
It is.
So all of stuff's irrelevant. But what is relevant is what you're going to do. Who do you want at the end of this game from an All Black point of view, from a leadership point of view?
Well, you've taken us there, JK, so let's go there. The selections for the All Blacks. Who are the match winners in a do-or-die quarter-final? Who wants to get stuck into this? Who do you want there at the end? Who wins the All Blacks a game?
I've got a question for all of you and all of you at home. Are we going to win by 20 points? No. Is this going to come down to the wire? Yes. Who do you want at the back end of the game? Let's talk about Sam Cane, for example. He's our captain. He's amazing when he's on the field. He leads us, but will he play for 80 minutes or will you bring him off? So, do you want him there at the end of the game or do you want him there at the beginning of the game? Do you want Sam Whitelock there at the beginning of the game or do you want... All these guys can play. But I reckon there's a huge selection thing about how we finish this game. I believe it's going to be... Let's hope it's a high-scoring game, and that'll depend on the referee. But I think it's going to be within 7 points going late. So you're going to need big decision-making. It's going to be big moments. So our selection on how we finish this game for the first time ever...
Go on.
Nelson?
Go on.
I think we need to win big. I think if we start early and we come out and we blow them away in terms of our game, then we can actually finish, with a high scoring, possibly even 12 points by more. I think what we've got is the cover that if it doesn't go that way and it's really tight, we've got the balance from the bench that we go, well, Roygaard and McKenzie, man, they have had such good tournaments. You throw them out there without, the expectation, but you've got to go out there and win this now, as opposed to sort of, trickling along. I think your big guys that got to start, there's obviously, that will win us the game, is Savea, there's Smiths, Moronga. That spine, even Geordie Barrett, those are the four guys that I think are going to win us this
What about Shannon Frizzell?
Quarterfinal.
Oh, he'll be massive, Shannon Frizzell. I mean, I think Sam Cane starts all day. I have no issue with that. I think Dalton Popper, he's got enough experience coming off the bench. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Dane Coles on the bench for this game. He threw merit on the way that he has played, particularly his accuracy and clearly his scrum work, his line-out throwing, big moments, and Sam Whitelock, his experience coming off the bench. I understand where you're coming from in leadership. We made a mistake 4 years ago in not starting Sam Cane in a big game against England in the semi-final. I don't think they're going to make that mistake again. He understands how important his role is, absolutely critical. So I have no surprise. I'm not concerned. The great thing about McKenzie and Roygaard is if we're not in front, is if we're having to chase the game. Yeah. If we're having to create, then all of a sudden we've got the ability to break a game open. And if I was to take our bench against their bench, Anton Leonard-Brown, I think, will be there. His experience has been there. I think there were 14 players who were involved. I've counted if my selections are right, who played in a game against Ireland in 2019 and put 40 on them. Now, this is a different Ireland team, but these are guys who have been there, experienced Rugby World Cups. We've got plenty of it. I think they know what it takes. Well,
Sam Cane's got a score to settle, doesn't he? After that Irish series last year where Peter O'Mahony came out with that sledge and said, "You're a shit, Richie McCaw, pal." Rhoda Retallick was asked during the week what he remembers from the series, and he said, "I remember I got a broken cheekbone." He hasn't forgotten that. These guys haven't forgotten that, JK. There is a lot of history here.
Yeah, look, I don't believe in revenge. I don't believe in any of that stuff, Kirst. If you're going to concentrate on that stuff, you're going to get distracted. What we need to do is implement the game plan that we believe is going to win it. I think it is the biggest... I don't care if there's I don't care if there's Fiji, Samoa. I don't care who's on the other side. This is your moment in time. There's a lot of players in that team that won't want this to be their last All Black game.
What about motivation, though? What about motivation?
The World
Mills?
Cup's a motivation.
No. So I think sometimes it runs deeper than that.
Yeah,
if
man.
I remember in 2015, the quarterfinal against France,
Yeah.
absolutely monstered them because there was history there with France at Rugby World Cups. There's history here. There was history for that island game in Japan that was fresh in the minds of these players, and you saw them at a different level, an elevated level. I
does
wonder
that
whether
help,
or not.
Mills?
I wonder whether or not the All Blacks feel as though they feel a little bit disrespected.
Yeah.
In the fact and maybe being a little bit written off early in the tournament. Oh, you lost to France. You got thumped by South Africa. Since then, we've gone about our business
Do you
and
think
done it
Ireland
really well.
disrespect us?
What's that?
Do you think Ireland disrespect
They certainly
us?
disrespected our captain.
I think they've got to be composed in terms of the approach. Yeah, they'll be highly motivated, but they've got to use that and be disciplined about it, because that's one of our biggest worst nightmares when they start giving away penalties.
Yeah, they deserve to be the #1 team in the world, Ireland, going into this game, and they deserve to be favourites. But that doesn't mean that they're going to go out there and absolutely dominate the All Blacks.
No
That's not
way.
gonna
There's
happen.
no
It
way.
doesn't happen.
There's no way.
Okay.
There is absolutely no way that they are going to dominate. It will go down to the wire. That's why I keep coming back to the last 20 minutes. You know, I agree with you guys. We've
And
got to
you're
start well, we've got to play well, but we've also got to finish well. The courage to bring Mackenzie on and say to him at standoff, just play.
Yeah.
Now, that's going to be hard under pressure.
Yep.
Well, you know what? The coaches now have this task. They've been looking at Ireland. They've been looking at potentially South Africa for the last 6 months and what the plan would be at this stage of the tournament. Grant Nisbett sat down with Ian Foster.
Well, Fozzie, confirmed Ireland. You probably thought that's going to be the case. Have you kind of been planning for that?
Yeah, we have been. It's but you're still planning for other contingencies too. So, look, it's great to know. And like I said, we were 90% sure, and we've done a lot of work in that space. But it's clear now, and pretty exciting occasion.
So what have you thought of them? You would have watched them, obviously, against Scotland and probably all the other games. What have you thought of them?
Yeah, look, played really well. Coming to this World Cup on quite a big winning streak, so that they know their game. They've been efficient. I thought they probably struggled a bit in the South African game. That was always going to be a monster game as well. I thought South Africa really got under their skin a little bit, and for South Africa they missed 3 or 4 kicks, which probably cost them in the end. But that was a real arm wrestle. But they finished strong against Scotland, didn't they? They played well. We know they like to start the game really well and put the contest beyond doubt, and they did that.
Of course, last year they came down, beat us at home. What do we learn about it? What do we learn about them and about us, actually?
Yeah, we learned we don't like losing at home, do we? And it was a big series, and they came pretty buoyant. We came out of a super season. We weren't as prepared as we needed to be. I think they played their game the way that they play it, and defensively we weren't quite at the level we needed to be, and I think we've made some big strides in that part of our game. I think our maul defence is taking strides, and it's going to need to, but that was an area that we got exposed. And I guess the third area is that Ireland for some reason seem to get teams who play them in big games seem to get a few cards, and we certainly got a number of yellow cards and a red card in those last 2 tests, and that really hurts you against a team that's really efficient at manipulating space. So got to get those things right.
Okay, a month ago we played France, lost. How much improvement have you seen since then?
Yeah, good. I think France was a very different stage for us. That first game, we came in, we had that one game in Twickenham, and we had sort of gaps either side of that. We had a number of injuries. I thought we played well for 50 minutes, but we just sort of probably learned a few lessons about composure and how to get out of our half in that last 20. So worked hard on that. And I guess we'll see how much.
I think I'm right in saying you haven't conceded a first half try in this tournament as yet. What does that tell us?
I didn't know that, but we are working hard on our starts, and it's not so much about tactically. A lot of that's about mentally. It's about making sure that you don't go in and sort of just feel like you've got to absorb the occasion and absorb the pressure. You've actually got to go and take a step forward in those first few minutes, and so we've been working on that. I feel pretty good about that. I felt Uruguay, we sat back a little bit, and that first 20 minutes they came and disrupted us a lot and forced us into some errors that we can't afford to happen this week. So it's a work in progress, but it is something that we're really trying to nail our concentration in any game.
And talking about Uruguay, did that put any pressure on you, give you some food for thought about team selection for this week?
Yeah, it did. It's there's guys who were given opportunities and largely took them. And so, for us, the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been faced with that, where guys have had an opportunity to come and perform a role for this team, done it well. And so now we're confident that they can do it, and now we'll just have to chuck all the names up in the air and see what comes out. But we've got a pretty clear idea what we're doing. There's, we know a lot about Ireland, we know a lot about ourselves, and so getting the right group, we're pretty clear on that.
And the role of Joe Schmidt this week, I guess it'll be valuable because he knows these guys, he knows the team so well.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. But he's been valuable for a long time. It's not just about using his value against Ireland. It's about, we've got a great connection there where we talk a lot about our game. It's about building us. It's about taking the things that we want to do, both sides of the ball, attack and defence, and fine-tuning them down. And he's been a massive part of our coaching group in that space. So I think, this is his first time. He was on the peripheral in the Irish series. He came in as a selector after that, and then subsequently as a coach. But he's excited by it. But he's, I know he'll put his heart's black, but he absolutely loves his time in the Irish jersey. So he'll have a few mixed emotions, but as a coach, I know when the whistle goes, he'll be 100% in.
Very interesting interview and a massive week. This is the kind of week and the test that could define the Ian Foster era for the All Blacks, couldn't it? The Joe Schmidt comment in there, of course, Joe Schmidt was on the other side 4 years ago. There'll be mixed emotions for him, Mills, but his heart is certainly black. And discipline. Teams don't beat Ireland when they get cards.
No, and give away penalties. That back-to-back penalties that get yourselves in the wrong end of the field. They thrive on that. Do the Irish? Their structure is really good, and it's almost like the All Blacks used to be like 5 or 6 years ago, where they get a little sniff and they make you pay for those mistakes, Jeff.
And we got in trouble the 2 test matches, the one leading in and the first test, we got cards. Yeah. We got cards, and up until that point, we hadn't conceded a card this season. So for the All Blacks going through this tournament, we've conceded a couple. Ireland have only conceded 1. Both teams are pretty disciplined around giving away penalties. That's what's hurt us in that game, that pre-game against the Springboks and then in France. So, all those little things, that decision-making, clearly adapting to exactly what's happening on the field around you, the way the game is playing out, JK. But I think these two teams will understand that discipline is going to be absolutely critical. And this is the hard part, because it's going to be highly contestable. It's going to be highly confrontational. It's going to be highly physical. And the fact being able to avoid that moment where there's an incidental contact, whether it be a breakdown or a clean out or a tackle, you can't avoid those. You've just got to hope in some ways you get a little bit lucky.
I'll give you one other word: frustration. Yeah. So you cannot get frustrated against Ireland, because they're going to hang on to the ball for 10 or 12 rucks. Yeah. You cannot get frustrated if you attack for 6 or 7 rucks and they turn it over. What I've felt in the past against Ireland, and I think we would have learnt this, is we get a bit rushed because we're getting frustrated because things aren't probably going the way we want to, and taking those big moments. If you look at the games we've lost against Ireland, the series at home, there was a couple of moments there. The moment in November a few years back, Golda, we spoke about, there was 2 try-scoring opportunities. I think there was a forward pass to Akira Ioane late. You've got to stay focused, and you can't get frustrated that you might not have the ball for 18 rucks. You can't get frustrated that you've got to push it early. Scotland attacked for 18 rucks, and then you could see them getting frustrated to try and push stuff. You've got to stay patient. I also think take your 3 points. Yeah. Take your 3 points. If you're 50 out, kick it goal, put them under pressure.
The other big thing also is, for me, is adapting to the referee. I think they've shown in this tournament that they are rewarding sort of the defender. I hope that doesn't sort of change leading us, because all players want is continuity. The last thing I've also seen in the last week or so is we've gone upstairs to the TMO a heck of a lot. And so what worries me a bit is that the referees that are out there, they've got a feel for the game. know that they've got someone upstairs that are actually going to come back and call, even after the Samoan one, you know, when they came back after the conversion was taken. What worries me in that department is, you know, that will frustrate players as well, and it's also going to frustrate the way the flow of the game.
Do you reckon they'll change? Do you reckon the referee and TMO will change for this week? Do you reckon they're trying to make a statement
A change
about
in their
cleaning
mindset,
up our
I'm not
game?
sure they will. I'm not sure they will at all.
I think they will.
Jeff, we know that every team has vulnerabilities, right? No one is perfect. So where are the vulnerabilities in this Irish side? How do you beat them? How do you beat the #1 side in the world that is on a 17-game unbeaten streak?
Well, what they did do is they lost their first 5 lineouts against the Springboks. So all of a sudden you start asking some question marks around that. And that's, once again, that comes down to pressure. And with Shannon Frizzell, all of a sudden our line-out defence, particularly up in the air, is very much improved. So if you look at that, I mean, the one thing the All Blacks will have to do is their scrum will have to be rock solid. I don't see it. There's not a lot about this team, this Irish team, you can pick on Mills, JK, and go, you know what, there's a weakness there, there's a weakness there. I do think, though, if you can turn them around and control territory and actually take the ball out of their hands and go, you know what, are you prepared to play out from your own half? If you can not give away penalties for territory, I think all of a sudden it might give them some doubts and they might start playing where they don't want to play. They don't really want to play in their own half. They do kick a lot, Mills.
And to your point, I mean, if they've lost those lineouts against, you know, South Africa, that's where you go to. You find field position. Even worst case scenario, they get it, they kick it out. Our variation from our lineouts and in particular our scrums has been really, really good. You've got to attack their strengths, okay? And their strengths is their 9 and 10 combination. You've got to get into Gibson, you've got to get into Sexton. You know, even if it's a little wee sort of holding him back, but you've got to be controlled about that. You get into those 2 players, and also the guy outside Sexton and Bundy Aki, and stop that go forward. I think you're going to, I mean, it's easier to say when you're looking and targeting your strengths as opposed to looking at weaknesses, but you've got to have a plan around those 3 players.
Do you think does a shootout suit us? Does a shootout suit us?
I don't really.
We're going there, are we?
Look, I don't really care. Because
There's a lot of things you don't care about. It's irrelevant. You don't care.
I don't care. I don't care.
You can't wait.
No, I can't wait. I don't care. But I tell you what.
He's frustrated with dinner, he owes you.
Exactly.
I'll tell you something. I cried after one game of rugby. The only game of rugby I cried after was the 1991 semi-final against Australia, because I wasn't ready for it. I was devastated and we lost, right? All of us have been there. All of us have felt the hurt. You play for New Zealand and you go home after that game, it's horrible, right? Even your mum won't talk to you. So
Mate, I'm starting to cry now, mate. Come on, mate.
They haven't lived it, eh, Mills?
No.
The Ireland have not run out. You can talk about the stuff all you want, Ireland, but I tell you what, on Saturday, we don't have that weight on our shoulders. You guys do. And in the moment, it comes into your head. That's what you need to control. Richie McCaw, our greatest player, after 2007, had to change that mentality, but you've got to live it. And I think that is the key factor. And that's where we have to stay and not get frustrated and stay cool. Because all the stuff you're talking about is correct from a technical point of view. Hey.
Well, that's a brilliant last word. I think we'll leave it there. Grant Nisbett has been very busy for us this week. You know the name, you know the voice, but how much do you really know his story? JK found out.
Well, my absolute pleasure today to be here with the amazing Grant Nisbett, to his friends and people who work with him, otherwise known as Nisbett. And we're connected. So you called your first test match and I played my first test match.
Yeah. And I remember you saying to me years later, if we'd lost that, it might have been the end of both of us. But actually we staggered home against France, didn't we?
Yeah.
84.
First time I've seen a man cry.
Yeah.
Oscar Border.
Right.
Missed.
Endless drop kicks.
Yeah, 5 drop kicks I think he missed.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you as nervous as I was?
Look, it's so far long ago, I don't damn well remember. I was probably nervous even doing the game because, you know, I hadn't had a lot of experience in television. I'd done a fair bit of radio up until that point, but look, I probably was. But, you know, pre-match nerves, I guess as a player you probably find pre-match nerves and nerves during the game probably 2 different things. I get nervous sometimes before a game, but once we're going, it's not too bad.
And what about your voice? So a lot of my friends, they absolutely love your voice. So you make us feel comfortable. We love hearing you. But you're behind the camera, do people sort of go, oh, don't really recognise you, but when you open your mouth, they know who you are?
Yeah, they do. And I guess it's kind of God-given in many ways. You know, you're given a voice. Everyone's given a talent of some sort. I always say that to people. Everyone's given a talent of some sort. You know, I wasn't a good enough rugby player to be an All Black. You were. And so, you know, maybe I was given a decent voice. And pretty lucky in that regard, I guess.
How do you stay impartial? Because I listen to other commentaries and they are very biased. How do you stay impartial?
I've always been conscious of the fact that whatever team the All Blacks are playing, there are going to be people at home who are probably supporting the other side. Like if we're playing France, there are a lot of French people living in New Zealand who obviously want the French to win. And a lot of South Africans have migrated to New Zealand as well, and Aussies and what have you. So I'm always conscious of those people. You know, I mean, I'm a passionate Kiwi, and I certainly love the All Blacks, and I love them to win. But I hope that it doesn't cloud the commentary.
Nisbo, your prediction?
Look, I'm a passionate Kiwi. I've watched the All Blacks get out of a lot of scrapes over the years. They run at about 80%. I'm thinking that the All Blacks go all the way. And
what about you? Retirement on the horizon, or you want to keep going? How's your voice? It's still hanging in. I'm closer to the end than the beginning, JK, I tell you.
But look, as long as I'm passionate and the Sky want to keep me going, I'm happy to roll on.
Long may it last, Nisbo.
Cheers, mate.
Always a pleasure.
Cheers, mate.
No, my hooky, my welcome back into the breakdown on the road. Well, we've moved on from the biggest quarterfinal in our eyes. Thankfully, we can all take a breath again, but we look ahead at another huge game. It is France against South Africa. France so skillful, South Africa so big. Two of the best kickers in the world right now, Pollard and Ramos. Both of them very rarely miss. I mean, who's favourite going into this, Mills?
Oh, you're picking Pollard to start, are you? Is he taking from...
Well, they've had kicking issues.
Yeah. I think South Africa will get up. I think the Springboks are looking really good. I mean, in terms of bringing Pollard back, I think they will.
Look at Jeff.
I think that Pollard possibly will start because of that factor. I would love to see Lebok out there because I think he brings something different. But South Africa and the Springboks, they know how to win.
They can't get any better.
I was looking at your picks going.
Well, I changed my pick when I got the other one. I rip it up.
Yeah, you rip it because you had us playing South Africa, and that would have been fascinating in itself. Look, I think this is a great matchup because if you think maybe Ireland's fans are going to have an impact on our game,
yes.
How are the French fans going to have impact on the fact that South Africa? I mean, when you think about it, France going into this tournament, as we got closer and closer, there was this belief that the fact they were one of the favourites, clearly because they're at home. Can they do this? I think they can. I genuinely think they're good enough.
France.
I think they can. I think this, you talk about margins, they think it's going to be close. I think they're going to ride the weight of a nation. I think they've been good enough, the way they've been playing. They were good enough to beat the All Blacks in the first game when the expectation was on them for that moment and they fronted. I think they can do it again. But South Africa, the DNA, they are the defending World Cup champions. Yeah. They know exactly who they are and what they're going to try and do. And they're going to go out there and try and physically dominate. I don't know if that's going to be enough to beat France.
Yeah, I'd just like to say to myself, thanks for the messages last week to all my South African friends.
What did they say?
Oh, just that I was talking about not liking the way they play. And the reality is we know how South Africa are going to play, right? And I think they're a way more complete side than they show. So we know they're going to kick it high, we know they're going to chase it down, we know they're going to maul, we know that they're going to do all that sort of stuff. But they don't play an expensive style. And you can't criticise them for that because they win rugby games doing it. However, I think against France, you're going to have an expensive game. And you're going to have to do that earlier than you might want to. Because if they match you physically, and if they're good receiving the ball and having a good kicking game back at you, then you need to look for other stuff. So my problem with South Africa is their DNA is to go to what they know. But I still think they've got this amazing backline, Mills, that is incredible in its own right, but they don't go to them until the game is sort of won.
The kicking game for both of these teams, I think you're going to see a lot of aerial ping pong. And the fact that it'll be who cracks first, who makes the first mistake, Mills.
I hope not.
South Africa
No,
are
they will.
comfortable.
It will be.
South Africa are comfortable in that. You know, they're comfortable in terms of playing that game, kicking the ball and just sort of seeing what comes of it, get the accuracy of kicking the ball. The big part is they're big boys. You know, can they sort of, go around those edges and try and really wear down, the French sort of, props, hookers and stuff like that. Because I think when the All Blacks got to the French game, they were out on their feet. When they slowed it down and they got them back in the game, South Africa will bring something totally different. They'll try and outmuscle them up front first and foremost. But some of their backs, that could be the point of difference. They might go early to their backs and see what they can if they get any gains from that.
Well, South Africa did change the game plan in the final when they won in Japan. So I think it's a tactical war.
The one thing I do know is the fact that this year's ball travels an absolute mile, and you wonder why the goal kicking's so easy, the stats are so easy. You look at them, I've had a good look at it. They're designing them really soft in the ends, they travel. That's why all of a sudden discipline will be absolutely critical, because penalties from 55 aren't a problem. And the fact, I'm not even sure the fields are actually full length. I know the one in Leon wasn't full length either. It was 4 metres short because it was a football field.
How do you know that?
Because I measured it. Took the time to do it. Hey. So I'm saying, why do you think 55-metre punts are going so far? Because it's actually not 55 metres. So there's a lot of things in this game, but particularly the ball. It's travelling. How far are the teams punting it? Miles. So all of a sudden, goal kicking, penalties, discipline, and they'll be taking threes.
Then Pollard has to start then,
You look at
doesn't
some
he?
weird stuff.
It's probably irrelevant.
Pollard has to start for South Africa then?
Oh, he doesn't have to, but I'll be surprised if he doesn't.
Well, let's take a look at England against Fiji. Both teams had unconvincing final pool games here at the Rugby World Cup, but can Fiji do the unthinkable? Can they upset England and make it through to a semi-final at a Rugby World Cup, Mills?
Well, the proof's there, right? I think the downside to it is they actually started to crawl into this in the last couple of games. It's almost as if they're their own worst enemies. When they're expected to win, they don't play as well. But when they're not expected to win, and they're huge underdogs against a side that has been a little bit clunky themselves, then they'll bring something. I think it's an expansive game for them. They've got to take it to them.
Yeah, look, I think England's a better side than it was. I think that they've slowly built some confidence. But I do think that Fiji are a pretty complete side. If they can play the style of rugby that they want to play, they need to take more risks than possibly most other sides would do, and that's what makes them great. Run it back from deep, run it early, run this English side around. I believe that Fiji are not lucky to be in the quarterfinals. They deserve to be in the quarterfinals. Do they have enough bench, Mills? Is that why they're a bit tired? Played the same team. I think this week for them is going to be a really important week. They probably need to freshen up. They probably not need to worry too much about the physical side and hit their fresh. But yet, I do believe they can beat England if they play their style and if they can play their style.
Well, no, what's happened is they've changed their style through the course of the tournament, and it's starting to hurt them. As they've gone to confrontational style of rugby rather than keeping the ball alive. And you watch the amount of times that they lose the ball in contact as they're going into it, leading with the ball rather than in their last game against Portugal. They had 3-on-2, 2-on-1s, and they're choosing not to pass. They're thinking, we're going to run over the top. You're not going to run over the top of England. One pass carry is not going to get it done. You've got wonderful runners with the ball, counter-attack, pass the ball, shift the ball, offload. That's what's going to beat England. If you try and do anything other than that, if you rely on a scrum and line out more drives and all those things, now you can use those on occasion, but for me, Fiji, you've got to get back to what they're great at, which is actually keeping the ball alive. And if they do that, they're a real shot here because they can score tries. England, for me, they're unconvincing. They're unconvincing.
JK, you brought up the experience factor, the winning World Cup factors, and that hoodoo's off New Zealand's back. I mean, how much does experience count in a game like this at this time of the tournament? The fact that England's been there before. Fiji, I mean, this is the first time in 16 years that they've made it to a quarter-final. These guys haven't felt that.
Well, I think Mills mentioned it, and so did Goldie. I think they've made their mistakes against Portugal, getting a little bit away from their game. They need to have the courage to play like Fiji. The reason Fiji have been so successful, and I believe Super Rugby and them having players playing overseas in competitions has helped them. Their forward pack's way more competitive. They last longer, you know, from a fitness point of view. But they've got to have the courage to play that Fijian flair, because that's what you worry about. If you're England, you go, wow, you know, they're not going to kick it, they're going to run it. And then I think Goldie's right. The lessons they learn is let's just play our style, let's do what we did at Twickenham, and we take our opportunities.
Well, you think how they played against Wales in the first game, in the first weekend.
Yeah.
You know, and that was, and the fact that they lost the game, but they created so many try-scoring opportunities. A game they probably should have won. And then against Australia, they did enough, but then they start. It's like from the last 20 minutes of that game, they've fallen off a cliff, and they have lost a little bit of their identity. They need to find it again. If they do that, and there is so much talent in that group, it's game on.
Well, there is one more, and it's another Northern Hemisphere against Southern Hemisphere cracker. Wales against Argentina. I mean, what separates these two sides right now, Mills?
I'll tell you, I think the style in which Wales have come to this Rugby World Cup, you know, they were under immense pressure in terms of the results and also what was going on and off the field. But I think, you know, they've sorted themselves out. They've almost bought a sort of a more expansive game as well that they can actually run to. It's almost like they said, okay, hey, this is our one-off tournament. Let's just go out there and just give it absolutely everything. I think Wales have gone under the radar somewhat to come out. And Argentina, I mean, are they getting themselves together though, Jeff?
It was even scratchy against Japan. Like the fact that they actually had the game under control, and then all of a sudden they allowed Japan to get back into the game. But whether they're timing their run, whether they'll be looking at it now and going, well, all we had to do was get into the quarterfinals, and we've got Wales. They wouldn't have anticipated probably having Wales. They'll like that matchup. Whether or not Pablo Matera recovers from his injury, his knock, it doesn't look as though he's going to be available, and that's a big loss in terms of experience. But I give them a real shot. I give the Pumas a real shot at getting through here.
Look, you're talking about DNA. For me, the DNA of a rugby side, we know South Africa's DNA, right? I read an article during the week where they spoke to one of the Welsh players, can't remember which one, and he said, Gatland's brought back our DNA. Our DNA is this. We work harder than the oppositions. We're fitter than the opposition. We play a certain style of game that's a Welsh style of rugby, and now we know what we're doing. Argentina, on the other hand, they've sort of lost their DNA. I don't really know. I used to know how they play, but now I don't really know, and I think they're struggling to find that. So I think Wales will come through with this because they just know exactly what's expected from them. I think you know, Gatland's done an amazing. I mean, they'll probably build 5 statues of him, rename the stadium after him. But he's done an amazing job. You know, what happened to Australia? They sort of don't know what their DNA is. We're sort of waiting for them to play like Australia. So I think in that game in particular, I think Wales have the upper hand because they know exactly how they're going to play.
Double or nothing?
Yeah.
There it is. Double or
Shake
nothing?
on that. It was a dinner.
Double or nothing.
Oh, I'm looking forward to going to this dinner, wherever it may be in Paris in the next couple of weeks. JK's been talking about DNA. We are going to talk about characteristics here on The Breakdown. What does it actually take to win a Rugby World Cup? What kind of attributes and skills does a side need? We'll be back in just a moment.
Contras involved plenty already. Puts a wee kick over. He's got plenty of pace. Has he got the bounce? The grubber through the try. Brilliant. That is outstanding. Hawke's Bay on the attack, looking to seal the quarterfinal. They come across field. Here's Taya. He scores in the corner. You knew he'd play a part.
No mai, hoki mai, welcome back to The Breakdown. Well, it is a massive weekend coming up in the NPC. The semi-finalists have been found. So this conversation is actually relevant to the competition happening in New Zealand at the moment and the competition happening in France. We want to look at what makes a championship side, JK. DNA, attributes, skills. What is it that these teams that have won it in the past have, and what is it that you need to win in 2023?
Oh, I think all those things, knowing what you want to do, executing it under pressure, but I think key moments and dealing with that pressure for me is the biggest one. You know, the All Blacks need to play their style. South Africa need to play their style, but there will come down to a few moments where you need guys who under pressure can execute that.
No, I'm happy to listen to you guys. You've run a Rugby World Cup. I didn't manage to do that. You know, got as close as we possibly could in 1995.
It's probably better talking to you. Why do you?
Well,
think?
it's interesting because, you know, South Africa, you know, that pressure, you know, you get extra time. You know, there are obviously circumstances surrounding that, but, you know, we got as close as we could without being able to get across the line. You know, and then 1999, same thing, dealing with pressure. Because ultimately, there are moments where, and you mentioned it earlier about the All Blacks getting a start, where a game can get taken away from you very, very quickly. And it's how you wrestle back momentum, right? Yeah. When all of a sudden it goes. And what does it take to get across the line? And you think about what it took in 2011. Yeah. Where we were clearly the favourites going into the final, and we won 8-7 on the back of a Tony Woodcock. Smashed them. But a Tony Woodcock trick try for line-outs and a Beaver penalty, you know, and let's think about it in context. France had a penalty with about 7 or 8 minutes to go, which they missed, which they would have got in front. And could we have come back from that? I mean, when I look at that, Mills, it's because there are going to be things you have to deal with in game that will ultimately decide, and we weren't able to deal with it in 99. 95 was a little bit different. And to me, that I think is what a champion side, that's when you see true character.
A champion side is that. It's a side. It's not the 23. It's the whole 31 or 33, whatever that number is here. There'll be guys now that are going to have to prepare this team as best they can and not drop their lip because they're not being selected. The cohesion within that side. Leadership is a big one, right? Yeah. Leadership is huge. Then you combine with analysis. So you've got to be all on the same page in this one-off game. That you've got to get that analysis right and go out there and be all on the same page and believe in that game plan. And the third one is what you guys talked about. In the game, the moments individually, when you lose that moment, back-to-back penalties, you've got to get yourself back within the game. You know, if you've given away a penalty, get yourself back in the game collectively as a team. When you've lost that moment, how do you win that back? Yeah. All that work mentally has already been done. It should have already been done before they get to this stage. And then so they're going out there and they're well equipped in terms of dealing with some of that pressure. And I don't think a lot of the teams, they probably underestimate that because we've probably been through a lot of that sort of what you're talking about years and years, and the expectation of that. And so they would know. You know, Ian Foster said they're ready.
I'm still hurting from Southern White, you know. Yeah. I mean, the margins are so very, very small, Kirsty. And so when you look about and facing that adversity, but the one thing you can't then do, JK, is you can't go to try and fix it individually. Because I'm going to try harder. So then all of a sudden you get out of the defensive line, or you don't pass when you should pass because you're going to carry. It's making all of those decisions. I mean, that's why it's supposed to be hard, right? Yeah. It's not supposed to be easy, JK. No. I mean, that's why the going through the adversity the All Blacks have gone through, and to 4 more years from my old mate from Australia in 2003, you know, in 2007.
There's a mental health thing that's really, really important, which you actually need to put into practice on the field. You need to stay in the present. Yeah. But when you make mistakes, you're thinking about the past and you're thinking about the future, but you actually need to stay right in the present, and that is really, really difficult. It's going to be way harder for Ireland because all of a sudden they're expected to win, and when you're expected to win like the All Blacks are, that's when you jump out and you start thinking, oh, I need to do the next thing well, or why did I make that mistake? So staying in the present's a lot harder when there's a whole lot of fans in the room and there's a whole lot of expectation from family and friends.
It's actually amazing hearing about those different experiences that you've all had on the World Cup stage. So thanks for sharing that. We take a closer look back to home. There's some very exciting news, an exciting new era for Super Rugby Aupiki in their 3rd year, of course, starting next year in 2024. A new format, double round, home and away, plus a final. Take a look at this. It starts in March, so it's a little bit later than Super Rugby Pacific kicks off. There's 8 weeks of individual prep for these players, plus a 4-week pre-season, which is so important because this year they talked about the fact that only had 2 weeks together before the tournament actually started. Non-Black Ferns players will now get double the pay. That is up to $17,000, and they're still exploring this competition, this crossover competition against the Super W sides in Australia, which we're hearing is so important for this competition. Plus an extra 2 players are added to the squad, so it is up to 30 now, JK, from 28.
I'm really pleased about that. Look, when you look at the money, I think that Aupiki needs to change. It doesn't need to follow the male game. It needs to make a pathway for itself. And even if they change the name, whatever, it shouldn't be called Super Rugby. But that's a step in the right direction. I think that's important. your own pathway, make sure it's different.
And to me, exploring that relationship with Australia, like you say, something that has to be a little bit different. Maybe it's time when the teams are mixing it up a little bit more, bringing players from overseas to come and play into the tournament. If you're talking about growth, I mean, that's the challenge at the moment, because there are other competitions which players are choosing to go and play in. I think that's where they'll get some growth. But it's a great start.
Well, someone that has always forged his own pathways and has had a big impact on the women's game over the last 24 months is Wayne Smith. His book is now out and we have a giveaway. We've got a couple of signed copies to give away for you sitting there at home, loyal fans of The Breakdown. All we need you to do, see the email on the screen, thebreakdown@sky.co.nz. Email The Breakdown, email our crew with your winners of the 4 quarterfinals here at the Rugby World Cup, and you are instantly in the draw to win.
Oh, it's done. It's already done. I don't know.
So who wins these quarters then, Jeff?
Well, England and the All Blacks.
through?
No. Argentina play France, and what have I got? England play the All Blacks.
JK, you agree or disagree with any of those?
No.
I didn't even hear what he said.
No.
And you don't care?
Well, I don't. No,
Well, you're so wrong.
New
It doesn't
Zealand-
even matter. You were so
What was
wrong.
it? New Zealand, France, Fiji. Go Fiji.
Yes. There you go. Well, enjoy the quarterfinal action coming up, and we'll have the winners of that book giveaway for Wayne Smith next week. Mā te wā, we'll see you soon.